And I think the world is cyclical. When you were a common man 2,000 years ago, you were effectively a slave, and life was terrible. And then that was the same all the way up to perhaps the 1930s, 1940s. Being a common man was pretty terrible. And perhaps it was the war and the massive loss of life. Perhaps it was something else, I'm not sure. But I kind of feel like there was a golden period between in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, maybe even the 90s, where being a normal, hardworking man, because life is cyclical, went from being a terrible existence to quite a good existence. In the 60s, you could be a normal man who worked in a factory, an unskilled labor job, and with one wage, you could afford a house, you could afford a car, you could afford to raise a family, your children would not be taught garbage in school, your wife would respect you, you'd have a home-cooked meal.
Times were good.
Times were good. I feel like, because it's cyclical, those good times are over, and we're going back to where it was before. The kings have always been fine, and we always will. But if you're the common man, I think that the good days are over, and I think it's going to get harder and harder. Inflation is going to absolutely decimate your spending power. Now, inflation doesn't damage me. Inflation doesn't damage me because I own all the assets. Inflation just means houses get worth more money. Inflation just means Bitcoin and stock and land and houses all go up. Inflation means my car collection is no longer worth 110 million. It's now worth 300 million. Whatever.
Inflation,
I own everything.
Inflation is amazing for the rich man.
100%. I love it.
But for the broke man,
you're done.
You're fit.
You're done.
You're finished.
Because inflation is meaning your money is worth less. And it's going to take more of your money to buy a house. And your wage is not going to increase at the rate of inflation. It's becoming more and more impossible for you to own assets. For us asset owners, inflation's fantastic. So the common man is about to get wrecked. I think inflation is going to make it exceptionally difficult. I think AI is going to make most jobs worth less than they already currently are. If you're a newspaper writer or whatever,
AI is taking that.
AI is going to take that in the next 10 years. And you're going to, if you still have a job, it's going to be only managing the AI, which means you're going to be paid even less than you're currently paid. I think life is about to become exceptionally difficult for the people in the middle. I think the good times are over. I think it's going to go back to the feudal system of kings and serfs and peasants. And I think if you're a normal, average person now, you should feel deep fear and panic and understand that you have a certain amount of time to get into the higher bracket of the social class before these hard times come. And the most scary thing about these hard times is I have no real evidence for this. It's just in my mind. I feel like the gap is going to permanently close. In olden times, the chance of turning into anything more than a peasant when you were born a peasant was effectively zero unless there was chaos, unless there was a war or some great catastrophe which allowed social mobility for you to go to war, win, get a knighthood for bravery, get some land, and change your social mobility class. But there had to be war and chaos for you to escape. Because without the chaos, it's kind of like a prison break. When all the rules are being adhered to and the prison is operating as it should, you're stuck in your cell. But if there's a prison riot, you have a chance to escape, which means uncertainty and chaos are required for the difference in social mobility. And that's always been the case. But now I feel like with AI and certain other things, although there's going to be instability in the world, although they're going to continue to lie to us, I feel like the Matrix is going to gain enough control to keep us all in our pods or in our 15-minute cities, or our electric cars will be turned off, or we need to get our bug rations for the week so that there can't ever be enough true chaos for you to escape. There won't be true social mobility. And I feel like there's going to be a close. The people who are rich now, their bloodlines will be rich for a very long time. And the people who are poor now, if they don't get rich soon, in the next 10 years or so, they're never going to get rich. You're never going to get rich. The prices of houses are going to continue to go up. Prices of land is going to continue to go up. Inflation is going to continue to happen. Your wages will not catch up. It's going to get harder and harder for the average person to ever stand a chance of owning any assets. Yeah, it's now or never. Yeah. It's almost impossible right now. How does the average person on an average wage buy a house in London right now? Yeah. It's almost impossible already. I think in the next 10 years, it's going to become truly impossible, and they're going to use AI to keep the gap closed. And what's interesting about that is, well, I'm in the rich team, I guess. But what I find most interesting about that is the socio ramifications of the fact that I think this is quite pertinent to most average people. I think most normal people understand. If you were to ask them, how's the economy? They'd say, well, it's impossible. I can't pay for my bills. I can't pay to eat. I can't afford a house. I can barely afford my mortgage. I'm never going to get rich this way. They understand all of this, but they're not panicking. Why are you not panicking? The Titanic just hit the iceberg. You may not be in the water yet, but it's a certainty. There's nowhere else to go. It's going to sink.
It's going to happen.
Panic now. Don't panic at the end with everyone else as they go into the icy depths. No, I would argue if I was on the Titanic and it got struck by the iceberg, I could have got a lifeboat nice and early. Now, I wouldn't have women and children first. I'm just using this as an example. Analogy.
I know where you're going with it.
I could have gone to the top deck when no one else was panicking and said, you know what, I want this. I want to go on a lifeboat. No, I don't feel comfortable. I want to go on a lifeboat. And the guard probably would have said to me, you don't need to go on a lifeboat. It's no big deal. I said, yeah, but please just give me the lifeboat, or here's some money or whatever. I want this one. Give me this one. Everyone started panicking at the end, and there was no lifeboats left. And people are sitting here now going, oh yeah, the economy's bad, but maybe if we vote for this person, don't swear, it's wrong. Who are you going to vote for that's going to put money in your pocket actually come along and say, here's money? Nobody. You still got to pay your council tax. You're still a brokey. Nobody cares. No one you vote for is going to change it. It's going to get worse. It's going to continue. And the boat is going to sink, and you're not panicking.